long as you don't
Um,
have any of your secrets behind you or,
no,
on the other side of the glare that your glasses are showing off, I don't think there's too much to worry about in the real.
not, not
But
very much. Not any secrets. Old
yeah,
Western
that's
Outdoor
good.
News. There's an application, a guide license application. Nope, it's all good.
Nice, nice.
So, so how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah,
Just watching the rain,
yeah,
hoping it fills up our lakes a little bit. How
yeah.
about
It's supposed
yourself?
supposed to really come down tomorrow. Tomorrow's the big
Yeah.
day.
And then it looks like we're supposed to get it on Friday now too. So that's nice.
I did see it started continuing to Friday now. Yeah. So yeah, the I'm sure, just from the last little bit we had that chocolate arm and cap was flowing. Of course it stopped, but it was flowing there for a couple of days.
Yeah, I know. I've only been out there once, and that day I saw you, and honestly, the last 8.5 months,
Yeah.
and it was low, and I didn't see any water coming in, but I didn't get back. I guess I went as far back as my boat would let me go till the
Well,
trolling
yeah,
motor hit the mud, and I
you
was like,
can't.
"Oh, I can't get to the trees anymore."
Yeah, no, 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 you can't get in there. You can't get in there very
No,
far.
no, I tried. I was like, "I'm gonna make it," and I started hitting. I'm like, you know what? I don't feel like getting stuck today.
Yeah, right. Don't need me scratching up your boat on a hidden rock in there.
No,
Yeah. So, well, I'm glad to meet you, Matt Purcell. Thank you
nice
for
to
coming
meet you,
on this
Bruce.
the San Diego Bass Fishing Podcast here. It's been talked about for quite a while. You've been people have suggested your name for a long time. I've got my partner, Mike Panarisi, Tony Santiago, all these guys. They're like, "Oh, you need to get Matt on there. You need to get Matt." Jay. I just had Jay on yesterday. We did another podcast,
Okay,
Samarone,
yeah.
and
I talk to
yeah.
Jay
So
a lot.
that's what he was saying, that you do talk a lot.
Yeah,
So
we've been more started grow like more from the saltwater side of things than anything, but when we're at the lake every day, you
yeah,
uh you see people and you say hello and
yeah, 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 yeah.
become friends over time, really is what happens.
Right. Yeah.
So,
So speaking of saltwater, and I don't know, this is all recorded anyway, so I
okay.
can cut it up any old way, but this is so we are recording at this point. But so speaking of saltwater, uh, you're running boats. You're running boats.
Ye
What do you do
yeah,
out there?
I have my 100 ton, and so currently I'm night driving. Uh I don't have that much familiarity with the big boats, so I'm basically learning getting
Yeah.
very familiar with the engines and doing all that stuff before I start trying to run trips full time by myself.
Okay. I thought you were running like six packs and smaller
Yeah, I work
skiffs.
on the Limitless, which is the
Right.
44-foot Pacifica.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're familiar with it. It was up in Newport forever, and then my
I
boss Matt bought it and brought it down, and now it sits in front of Dana Landing.
yeah, yeah. I used to know the other owner when it was up in
Tom.
Newport. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I
He was a nice
didn't
guy.
personally know him, but I've heard we have a lot of clients that have carried over from there, and
Hmm.
yeah, I've never heard a bad word. Everyone loves him. He seems like pretty much he was a pretty awesome, super fishy guy to be around,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
we just try and carry on that legacy of the boat at this point.
Yep. So if you don't know Matt Purcell and his brother Chris, these are the two guys are they've started or they own Swimbait Underground, right?
Uh, well, not I personally don't. I'm there a lot and I help a lot, but I don't technically own or it's my brother's company along with his other business partner Ben.
Okay.
Um and I just am kind of I'm I take advantage of everything. So I'm there, he has 2 kids and he's the only one that's really at the shop on a day in and day out basis. So
Uh-huh.
he has a lot of stuff going on, travel, whatever. So if he's out of town, I'll go help ship orders or do things. And
Yeah. Yeah.
but for the most part, business wise, I would be more of like the product tester.
There you
Uh
go.
yeah, ultimate product tester for them more so than anything. Very much just on the water most of the days. So
Yeah.
I yeah, that's where I spend most of my time.
So, what is, I mean, a lot of our viewers will want to know, and I'm kind of a neophyte. I'm like new to the whole swim bait game. Like,
Okay.
so what is Swimbait Underground?
So Swimbait Underground started, I want to say it originally started in 2010 as a forum.
Hmm.
So you're familiar with Bloody Decks coming from the
Yep.
saltwater side of things. A lot of guys in San Diego would probably be more familiar with that. It's very much like Bloody Decks that's specifically dedicated to saltwater or swimbait fishing. It's not just freshwater bass, it's all saltwater, it can be saltwater guys. We have guys that catch fish all over the world that post on there.
Hmm.
And honestly, it's probably one of the best databases if you want to go sort through information of baits over the last 16 years. There's everything on there, reviews, I mean, posts, why people, what they've been catching fish on.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a snapshot of what the last 15 years of swimbait fishing has been is all available for your own kind of research and deep diving into if you want to do that.
I noticed
There,
it has a black market
yeah, I
page.
was gonna say, so the black market's huge. It's a lot of guys on there buy, sell, and trade baits.
Hmm.
If I mean, it's an awesome place to get good deals on baits or really hard to find baits. Guys will sell them. A lot of time you can trade if you have, baits somebody else wants, you can trade, but there's a lot of hard to find baits that pop up on there every day. And if you're kind of consistent and you're trying to find something specific, you usually can find it on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or if you go and make a post, and unfortunately, with the way people are, if you're willing to pay for it, you can pretty much get anything you want if you ask for it. Guys are have a lot of baits and collect, there's collectors that buy things to hold on to. There's guys that, like me personally, when I'm buying a bait that I know I'm gonna fish, I'll buy them 10 at a time.
Nice.
And it sounds crazy, but like it is what it is. If you know what you want and you know what you need, having 10 of them in your boat at one time makes it like whatever. If it breaks off, tie it on, go again. Um,
Which makes it gives you a different mindset when you're fishing it,
yeah, you
because
don't
I do the
it's
same
like
thing with
fishing
A-rigs.
it's a plastic worm at that point. To
Right.
me, every single
Right.
bait that I tie on, I have no more hard feeling than if I broke off a drop shot worm during a tournament. I'd be the same, sucks, but it is what it is. It's part of the game.
Right.
So when you find the
Yeah.
baits that work for you, you start stockpiling.
Right.
And that's the way it works.
Yeah. I mean, we have numerous people, myself included, that'll come in and clear a peg off a certain color of brush hog at a certain time of
Oh,
year.
I've done that a few times in the shops for different baits. Trust me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, it's just one of those things. With, like I said, if you know you can get an advantage of somehow doing it, you kind of try and take the advantage. And these fish here get pressured so much when you can get something new in their face, and you're the only one that has it. The results show for itself consistently. Like the quality of fish, the size of fish, you're gonna get bigger, better fish showing
Yeah.
something that they've never seen before.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take them long to learn. I mean, if you're fishing a small lake, it could be 3 or 4 trips out, and those fish are not going to react to the bait anymore. And it's okay, time for something new. You can't just pester them with the same thing over and over again.
Right. I hear those stories of when the triple fish first came out, and how just like a few guys like David Valdivia and whatever had that mark, Higashi up at Performance Tackle. They talk about that, and how they kept it under wraps for a while, winning tournaments.
Yeah, I have some buddies that, are very good guy friends with, Jeremy from Black Dog that I
Mhm.
fish with, but he was around and lucky enough to have some of those baits when they first came out, and to hear the stories of him at Diamond with those things.
Yeah,
I mean, 35 pounds every day sitting on a point, and just get on a point, start working the bait, 35 pounds, come home.
right.
And it's, like I said, you show them something new and they like it for a while and they get used to it, and time to roll
Yeah,
back. And sometimes it's go back to the old stuff, not
yeah.
just always new. Sometimes baits get forgotten about that are proven, and you just need to pull them back out and see if it will work.
Did did you ever get in on that whole Lake Casitas glory days of when the big
I
bait posse kind of stuff?
I
Did you get up
was too
there?
young, so like
Yeah, I was
that was
wondering that.
going on kind of while I was in high school, and
Yeah.
I grew up saltwater fishing. So
Okay.
my bass fishing started, I mean, it really started as trout fishing in the lakes.
Hmm.
My dad, we had a skipjack growing up. We've always had saltwater boats. He's a saltwater fisherman. He used to make fun of us for going to the lake. He would drop us off happily, buy us, take care of us, get us the baits we needed. And he'd be like, have fun doing this. That's your guys's. And he'd just leave us at the lake all day, and we'd be at Murray or Santee Lakes all
Yeah.
day, every day, catching. Started as trout, and then, you know, like guys were catching 16, 17, 18 pounders at the lakes, and I was still catching trout. So like the first big wave of all that stuff through the early 2000s, I wasn't hip to what was going on,
Yeah.
which
No,
makes me mad.
I feel the same. I am exactly in the same boat. I was I'm a little older than you, but at the same time, man, I was long range fishing. That's all I cared about was catching cows down at Clarion. And I bypassed that whole. I would hear about the Huddlestons and this and that. And I remember Sean Trowbridge was super into it, like the guy who ran the Legend Bulldog. And
Mhm.
uh and he would have these stories of Morena and this and that, and catching these, it was incredible. But and I, as much as I liked bass fishing when I was that age, it just didn't even matter. Like it was so out of the realm for me. And now I look back on it and just like cringe because of what I missed. you know, when the Huddlestons first got here, and the fishing back then too.
Yeah, to me, it was, I almost think more I was oblivious to it. I didn't
Yeah.
realize there was bass tournaments going on in San Diego until my buddy Matt was like, "Hey, I'm fishing a bass tournament." He was fishing with Tom Leadham at the time, and he was 15, 14, 15, and he just so happened to we became really good friends. His sister and brother were but friends, and he just started fishing with us, and he basically became my tournament partner for a long time. And then he now lives up in Northern California and guides duck hunting and does all that stuff. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
uh, like I said, like for me, it was more of just natural progression of fishing trout, which because back then they were stocking them so much. And then sitting at Santee Lakes during summertime, you can't catch trout. We started fishing night crawlers and catching little bass. And then it just was a snowball effect. And basically from the time I started bass fishing through, I would say 2000, all the tough years in the ocean, I wouldn't go out in the ocean.
Yeah.
So I did a couple
Yeah.
trips to like I did a couple long range trips in high school with my dad I went out on the Royal Star, but like for the most part my fishing completely flipped. So like my dad would want to go in the ocean and I'd just be like, "No, I'm going bass fishing."
Yeah.
So, and then later on, I found saltwater fishing again. So,
You come back around. It's yeah, it's funny how the whole crossover happens with us with the saltwater. and then the bass fishing and how it goes almost goes hand in hand. I mean, speaking of the big bait posse, I mean the uh, Sean Bailey, he's a saltwater guy too,
Oh
and
yeah, I see him down at the dock sometimes here and there.
yeah, yeah, and he travels back and forth from Havasu and this and that, but so how do you Jay brought up a good question, and why do you think there was more big bass than there back then than there is now?
Well, I mean, the easy question is trout.
Right. But they
They
still stock trout in the lakes, in a
no,
lot of the
I
little
mean,
lakes.
so at Murray and Miramar, they were getting 1,500 pounds every other week from whitewater, and then they were getting 1,000 pounds every other week from DFG. So basically, they were getting about 6,000 pounds
Wow.
of trout a month in Lake Murray.
That's so much.
And
That
it's
is
you
so
think
much
about
trout.
it, it's yeah, it's a crazy amount. Um, and the majority of those trout that were coming in at the time from the DFG were all under 8 inches. Every single trout was under 8 inches.
Yeah.
So, uh, I mean, that's the easy answer.
Right.
Just pure number of trout. And when you have that many big fish swimming around, there's the little fish don't have the chance to outnumber and grow because the big fish are eating the little bass and keeping that population in check.
Hmm.
As the trout go away and that kind of big food source disappears from the lake, I feel like you just have a size start going down and the fish don't eat, they're not eating as many bass. That 1 to 2 pound bass all of a sudden doesn't get eaten like they were. And they're just corroded in some of these lakes. I mean, you can go to Murray and see schools of fish, 100 to 200 fish some days, and
Yeah.
they're small, nothing
Yeah.
really over 3 pounds.
Okay. Yeah.
Um, I would say that, and then, I mean, over time, people not taking bass home would be another thing, I think.
Yeah.
I think a lack of catch, like a slot limit or people taking home smaller bass to eat, which, I mean, in the long scheme of things, it sounds like a great idea, but even Santee Lakes, I remember the average fish at that lake used to be 4 or 5 pounds. Now, it was a little tough to get a bite sometimes, but there was a lot of big f like, it was a good quality lake fish or good fish. You got good quality fish out of the lakes all of the time. I caught more 5 pounders there as a kid than I ever did on any of my boats at Jennings, Murray, anywhere else. It was you catch a 5 pounder. Um, you would also go around and see guys with buckets of bass,
Oh yeah.
little bass. They were illegally taking them home. And the biggest thing at Santee, I don't say that they've ever gotten a big change of trout, but they have had. I want to say maybe in 2008 or 2010, they went to catch and release only on bass. And
Hmm.
now you go around and you see a lot of small bass.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, I mean, the lakes are healthy. There's tons of food for them. It's not like there's a shortage of food for anything. You can go see bluegill everywhere. There's crappie. There's tons of shad.
Yeah.
Um, Everything's
Murray,
there to
Miramar.
have good big bass. There's just I don't know. That's my only answer. Our lakes are so small and there's never any like say dramatic changes. They're pretty stable, so you don't have big giant fish die-offs like I think you get like at Clear Lake every few years. You have huge die-offs.
Hmm.
Maybe every 10 years, Clear Lake, everyone's like, "Oh, it's dying off. It's going to be bad." And then look what's going on now. 3 years ago,
Right.
it was not the same as it is right now. All it takes is dramatic changes in the ecosystem, and our lakes are so stable overall. They don't get that change. They don't get a chance to like have a die off and rejuvenate. So the fish just stay in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons that cap is can be as good as it it is because of the water level. And we had that high water. I've seen it twice now, where we've had water way back into the trees, and then it stays there for 2 years, and then it gets drained basically, and it's like this low water now, and it pulls all that stuff, all that fish and all that bait out of the trees and condenses it into a smaller space.
Yeah, as the lake grows, it gives all the bait and everything chance to grow for 2 to 3 years and be
Right.
healthy. It gives, oxygen, algae's growing in the trees. You have a whole new life cycle, and then all of a
Yep.
sudden it starts drying it out and it pulls all those fish out and they're
Yeah.
there. And it will be good like that for a year, and then it starts dwindling.
Right.
And then if it doesn't get the rain, it
Continues
just
to
gets worse and
dwindle.
worse. I mean, I
I
know
mean,
when
we're
I
seeing
was
it
in,
at Hodges right now. It sounds
yeah,
like.
yeah, exactly. I mean, Hodges 2 or 3 years ago was really good. It's really
Mm,
low now, and it's
mhm.
tough.
Yeah. Yeah. It's starting to see that population decline. Um,
So, I mean, yeah, I'm not a biologist at all. I don't know that. That's just from me sitting on the water on a day in and day out basis. Um, I think big fish, there's only each lake only has, I mean, I know this comes from a biologist, each lake only has so much potential poundage that they can sustain it for life.
sure.
So whether that's 10 pounders to be 100 pounds, or 100 1 pounders to be 100 pounds, that's what's going to fill up the lake. And if it's just, they get stunted and they never get above that big size. So
Right. Right. So I heard a statistic um, concerning you, and it was how many fish over 10 pounds you have out of just Lake Murray. How many is that?
honest, I don't know. I don't know an exact number. That's one of those things that, like,
Oh, come on. You
I
you you can
honestly, no, I really have zero idea. I
I heard
don't
it was
know.
I heard it was 35.
I don't know if it's that many.
Yeah.
I really don't. It could be. Uh, I I don't know. I honestly have to go back and look at film and kind of I mean, I've been fishing there now for 20 20 plus years.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
my biggest fish I ever caught there was off of a bed when I was 15 or 6. I must have been 16 because I drove myself to the lake. But yeah, so I mean, there was a big fish from that. If you want to consider all that stuff, maybe there was, but actual pure swim baiting fish, I would say probably not that many. But there has been a lot.
Yeah. I mean, well, I mean, including bedfish, whatever, but you're not bait fishing, you're not throwing crawdads or shiners or anything, right?
No, but
Yeah.
to me, I mean, you still have to know how to catch the fish. I've seen plenty of guys go out with shiners and I outfish them, no, like, side by side. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, guys want to take credit away from people that fish live bait. And honestly, it's its own art form. As you know, like, bait
Totally.
fishing is not like, I know an older gentleman that too, that's a very salty guy that spends a lot of time fishing live crawdads, and he's a machine. Like, he
Yeah.
knows how to read his up and down, and he knows how to read his side scan, and he has an idea of what size fish he's casting his crawdad at, and he's catching that fish that he's trying to catch with no forward facing sonar. And, like, I don't care what you say, that takes skill.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, uh, yeah, no, I mean, I haven't fished live bait like that to catch those fish, but no. Yeah, I don't know.
I,
I couldn't
I,
give you
I
that answer.
I'm
I would
gonna
say
do I'm
I
gonna
would
do a
say over
podcast on
20
live
for
bait.
sure.
Yeah.
Um, but
Well,
it's been a
that's an
long
incredible
time.
amount of number just to come out of one lake. You know.
I could tell you every stone and shopping cart and Christmas tree and dock lot. Like, the amount of hours that I've spent at that lake is unbelievable. Like, it's kind of almost disgusting.
Yeah.
Like, I know all of, yeah, it's it's the closest lake to me. It's always been the closest. Before we could drive, my dad would drop us off in our bass boat that his friend gave to us and just leave us at the lake. So yeah, they've been dealing with me for a long time at that lake,
Yeah.
and it's just home. It's not exactly it's probably one of the least fun places to fish, but
I don't go
when
there
it
very
wants to
often.
be right,
I'll admit to it.
it's it's special. Like it's special. It's a tiny little body of water. The
Hmm.
potential's there. I've seen some huge, huge, huge fish, but all of our lakes have that. I've seen huge
Right.
bass at El Cap. I've seen huge bass. I've seen them everywhere. And I've been fortunate enough to catch 10-pound fish at most of our lakes around,
Hmm.
which, to me, I've caught big fish. I've got them up at the Delta. I've caught them kind of everywhere. So it's a matter of just putting the time in and learning what you're fishing and knowing what you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I spend a lot of time with the same, call it 10 or 12 baits that just get cycled through and cycled through. And
Well, what are your favorite baits? And I guess you don't have to get specific, and I don't want to ask you secret stuff or whatever, but I'm sure you have some generic ones in there too.
I mean, honestly, for like it's all the basics. It's nothing special. I do get lucky. I have a buddy that's working on a soft bait that I've been fishing. So I have a newer soft bait that's a prototype that
Oh boy.
no one necessarily has.
Here we go.
That's I've caught a couple. It's been successful. I haven't caught anything big on it, but it's getting bit. It's getting bit consistently. Um, who knows if it will ever be something that comes to market or he just makes it for himself and his buddies, like,
Hmm.
uh, you know.
Hmm.
But I fish a lot of the Rago baits. I've had a ton of success on all the Rago baits.
That's cool.
They need a little bit more work with them. You need to weight them. They just do weird things sometimes. They're not exactly the most fine-tuned baits on the market,
Hmm.
but they catch fish. If you can get them dialed to what you want to do, you're going to catch big fish on them. And I like them because a lot of them don't have much harness. So it's a lot. I'm fishing a lot of like 10 to 17-inch baits during this time of
Okay.
year
Yeah.
because nowadays they're not stocking trout that are 8 to 10 inches.
Right. They're just stocking bigger
Everything's
ones.
big. So, I mean, the littler baits get attention, but this type of attention you get when you're fishing a bigger bait is a lot more.
Hmm.
Um, Guys still catch fish on the smaller baits. Maybe they're more successful with them. I don't know. I'm stubborn and I just kind of go about the way I've been doing it for the last little while and it works out. But yeah, like the Rago, the Alpha Trouts, the SKTs have been very successful. Um, he has them in line throughs, which is nice. You just need to kind of stiffen up the line through so the line doesn't cut through them because they are the
Hmm.
11-inch baits, probably 10 or 11 ounces.
Hmm.
So it's a large chunk of plastic that you're
Yeah.
hooking through there. Um, and then like the Magna or the Hog Hunter, I guess it is now. It's not the Magnum anymore, but that bit will catch fish and has been catching fish since it's been around. I mean, I think I got my first one in like 2008 or 2009, and that's when everyone had a Huddleston, and that was a game changer at that moment. I mean, it was a night and day difference between the quality of fish you were catching on a Huddleston versus that thing on a daily basis. So, like, both of them work. I mean, I still fish HUDs specifically at certain areas for certain things because it does things better. I can make it do things that I can't get a bait or the hog hunter to do that I can't get a Rago to do. So
Okay.
it's very situational when it comes to soft bait fishing. The Nate's baits are really good too. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, there's tons of them on the market. Basically, you best thing to do is try some and see if it fits your style. I mean, if you want to grind baits out on the bottom, it's
Yeah.
different.
Uh,
Jig cook
are you
baits
still
or
fishing a lot of glide baits?
Yeah, I fish a lot of glide baits still. I still fish the Hinkles. I have fished the Hinkle. I'll fish the DRT Frenzy. I fish all the DRT
Which is
baits.
the big one with the
Yeah.
three treble hooks on it, and it's
Yeah, it's
big.
I think 16.7 inches or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. We have a couple of them at the shop still.
Yeah, it's it's a cool bait. It has extreme drawing power. It's a little difficult to work.
Mhm.
But I mean, I've caught fish on it. The biggest fish I was lucky enough to have one of the prototype ones, and I caught a double digit on it before it was released to the public, which was really cool.
Yeah.
I caught actually, I think it was one of the I caught a double digit on it, and I sent the picture to the owner of DRT, and I think like an hour later he stuck one in
Oh,
Japan.
nice.
So like within like
Wow.
however it worked one way or the other, like we both like because he was like, we need a 10 pounder before I can sell this bait. And somehow we both managed to do it within very close amount of time, which was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
So
but yeah, I mean, I fish a lot of the 86 glide baits too. Matt makes a
beautiful,
really good glide bait as well.
beautiful
So
baits.
I have him I have I think it's a whatever his new biggest shad glide is. I have one coming from him that I'm pretty excited to actually fish, just because so many people have Inkle, and I think it's another inch and a half or 2 inches bigger than that. So just
The you're not, are you talking about the Andromeda?
no, I think he has
It's a different one. Yeah,
it's a
because
different one. It's even bigger than
Andromeda's
the
been out for a few
Andromeda.
years.
Yeah, the Andromeda, I have the Andromeda,
Yeah.
they're really nice baits too, but this he painted it for me in a trout color, so we'll
Oh,
see what
nice.
yeah, I told him I
Yeah.
needed a new glide for trout, so
Yeah.
we'll see
So you
how it
spoke
works
about
out.
what your biggest bass. What is your biggest bass?
On a swim bait, it's 12.88, so just over 12 and a half. So not
Yeah.
giant, but
And what's your okay? In
uh
any
thir
other fashion other than
1311 I caught when I was a little young kid off the bed.
yeah.
So
Okay. And what would be like your biggest day? Like, did you catch multiple
uh
tins in one day or anything like that?
yeah, my best day that I've ever had uh was just under 50 pounds for our best five. And I think it was with the combination of friends. I had a buddy come out that I always wanted to have catch a big one. So he came out in the morning and he caught one that was 10. I had an 11 and a 10. And then we had, I don't even know, for our best 10, it might have been probably close to 80 plus pounds for the day.
Wow.
But yeah, so
Wow.
just under 50 for our best five
Yeah.
with an 11, two tens, and then a bunch of nines and eights and
Nines.
sevens.
Nice.
So my friend came out, caught one, went home, and then my other friend Matt was like, "All right, I'm coming on the lake," and he came out and finished the day with me, and we ended up catching a lot of fish.
Yeah. Yeah. And was that all swim bait fish or did you catch
Yeah, that was on
any
a
other bait?
combination of, I believe at the time it was either 250 and the bait smith, or it might have been the Hinkle, but I don't think the Hinkle was out yet. I think the
Yeah.
Hinkle came out very shortly after that.
Yeah.
Um, it was within a couple months of that. So I believe it was mostly with the 250, but most of the big fish came on the hog hunter that day.
Yeah. So you have really close ties with DRT through, I guess, Swimbait Underground, it seems
Yeah, I mean,
like. Are you
yeah. So I've been fortunate enough with the first time they ever came to the United States. I want to say it was in 2016. We were fortunate enough to go up there and hang. They flew into Northern California, and we went up there and hung out with them, and started becoming friends with them. And then a couple years later, we flew out to Japan and did the Keep Cast show with them. And just, yeah, our relationship is just continuously growing. My brother and them do a lot of collaborations and business,
Right.
execution types, different projects together all the time, whether it's the bait wraps that they make, or they just got done doing a like kind of an all-in-one skate tool type of thing for an all-in-one fishing reel tool,
Uh-huh.
which is
Yep.
really cool. It basically it's designed to go with the varial handles, but it will work with all of the other brands. It basically will work for any reel, if not varial handle as well. But so it has like a 10 to 12, I don't know, it's right here. Got a bunch of different sockets, all the different
Mm-hmm.
screws, and then it's the T-bar handle. So this tool, and then they're all magnetized so they don't fall out and they slide into the handle. So they do cool stuff like this, kind of based on like the old skate tool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, the guys in Japan, this leather holder is made by one of the bait leather maker and a bait holder over there, or he makes baits and manufactures like high-end wallets and all other stuff. So
Are you
it's
guys
kind of
are,
designed to go into that key chain and clip onto your pocket or do whatever you need to and have it
are
at
you
your access all the time.
are you guys selling those on Swimbait Underground?
Yeah, those are on the website shop.swimbaitunderground.com, I believe.
Yeah. So what is your brother or you or what does Swimbait Underground sell? You guys do
So
collabs and what is a collab?
so the collaboration, like this is for instance, like this is a considered a collaboration because we talked to like we went with DRT. It's one of their products that we're kind of selling it off of, which is
Mm-hmm.
their varial handles or lures handle. And it's just kind of bouncing ideas with other companies that are like-minded and producing a product that is kind of we feel is needed for the market. So like the big thing that my brother and Swimbait Underground produces, we do a lot of bait wraps. So all the bait wraps are handmade in the United States. Um, here.
And that's like going around your rod and
No,
keeping
so
it or oh okay, it's
like this is the
the
DRT
keeper.
wrap that,
I gotcha.
yeah, so like all this kind of stuff.
Uh-huh.
We produce hooks, split rings, we have scent that we have done, we make clothes.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it's we do a lot of things with like image photo. My brother does a lot of like imaging, the Swimbait Underground imaging, so he can help do that stuff with bait makers. So him and Matt work together a lot, and
Yeah. Matt from
that's really
86.
yeah, Matt from 86. So really
Yeah.
our, it's more a lot of clothes. So we do clothing, hats, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Backpacks. It kind of just varies throughout the year of what we have. And we don't stock crazy amounts of anything because we have a tiny little warehouse, and we're not trying to
Uh-huh.
be at the shop every day. We don't want to be necessarily open to the public and be stuck with business hours there when we could be going fishing if we don't have
Yeah.
shipping or other things to do.
Yeah.
So
So,
we don't have a store per se, but we are at a warehouse and shipping and doing all of that stuff consistently. And if guys are around and they can reach out and they want to get something, they can always reach out to me, and we can set it up where you can come meet me at the shop or whatever, and you can come grab some stuff.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's basically yeah, we do a lot of like helping small garage builders, kind of like when COVID happened and no one could get split rings, we went and found a manufacturer uh warehouse to make us split rings and stuff, so then we could supply the guys that needed to have hooks and split rings for baits to sell baits, because that's what they were doing for a living. And all of a sudden
Yeah.
you can't sell a bait without hooks. I mean, you can, but it looks
Right.
kind of crappy. You don't,
Right,
it's
right,
not a
right.
good
Yeah.
look if you're like, oh, well, yeah. If you're having a problem getting hooks and split rings as the manufacturer of something, like you can only imagine that your customer's going to have the same problem, and you don't want to start your customer off on a bad foot. So,
Yeah. What did
um,
you guys have? What did you guys do concerning with that Butch Brown skiff?
so the Bush
Did you
Brown skiff, my brother and they bought the skiff. They found in Butch's exact boat. I want to say it's like
which is kind
a
of crazy in
six.
itself, you
Yeah,
know?
they found the exact boat. My brother found it back in like back east somewhere
Yeah.
on eBay. And so he's like, I'm buying this boat. And Butch goes, well, if you buy it, have it towed to my house. So
Yeah.
my brother bought the boat, had it towed to Butch's house, and they ended up coming up with a plan. And they had it basically, Butch completely rebuilt the entire boat. He built a brand new trailer. He spent all of his time, he made it exactly the same as the boat that he fishes out of in the lagoon,
Yeah.
and he raffled it off to charity.
Yeah.
So they ended up taking it and they raised, I want to say it's something like $25,000 or something
Yeah.
for a local kids charity up in Los Angeles that takes inner city kids fishing.
Hmm.
Um, which is, oh, did you go away?
No, I'm here.
Okay. I was
Yeah, we're
trying to
good.
pull up the charity for the kids' names. So I'm drawing a blank off the top of my head, which kind of sucks because they're an awesome group of guys that do awesome things. They take a lot of the kids out, and they like I went up there and volunteered time. We took them out, a bunch of kids sculpin fishing one day.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
just
Perfect.
going and having a good time and getting the kids that are at risk youth out and showing
Yeah.
them something different. And
Yeah.
to me, more things like that need to go on. Like I'm all for the junior bass. We always try and help, give
Yeah.
whatever we can to them, and
Yeah. You're big supporters of it
yeah.
and East
I mean,
County
that's
tournaments.
yeah, all of the local stuff. I mean, everyone's very supportive of us, and we appreciate it. And honestly, if there's not kids in the future, like not kids fishing, it's not gonna grow in the future. The sport's gonna go nowhere. We're gonna get nothing, and it's just gonna get taken away from us. So, like, I know when I was a kid, there was a lot more kids fishing at the lakes on a daily basis.
There was
Um,
just kids walking up and down the dock, you know. They were able to be pinheads back then and just come out and go fishing and then help scrub the boat and bag fillets. And yeah, I think there was a lot more kids just walking the banks
I mean,
fishing.
yeah, like
We
I
don't
said,
see
at
that
Lake Murray,
anymore.
the opportunity was there. I mean, you could go there anytime during the winter and go catch 5 trout, and
Right?
it was easy. You didn't need to know how to fish. You needed to know how to tie a couple knots and cast,
Right.
and you were going to be successful again and
Right.
again and again. And slowly but surely, that went away, and the attendance to the lake went away. I was talking about it with Ruben at the lake the other day, and he's like, "Yeah, there's nobody here." And we were talking about the old days. He's like, "Yeah, I used to sell so many permits every day."
Oh
He's like, "I
yeah.
sell 6 permits now,"
Right. Yeah. They'd sell
and
shiners at Murray.
but the shiners at Murray goes. That money would go to the concession stand, the people that run the
Right.
concessions. It's not
Well, I
even.
mean, it was busy, you know.
Yeah, it was exactly. It was
There was
busy
a
enough. I
need for
mean,
it.
I'm sure if they did it, they would sell them still to this day, but it's probably more hassle than it is work, as you know from the shop. It's not keeping them alive, and keeping the tank clean isn't fun. And none of those people want to be responsible for something like that.
Yeah, no, it's yeah, it's shiners. It's just live bait in general, you know. There's a lot that comes with it, a lot of responsibility that comes with it.
Yeah, and it's gross and it smells and it's plumbing and it's going to flood your
It's
store at
it's
any
plumbing.
moment.
Exactly. It's going to flood your store.
So,
It will eventually. It
yeah,
will.
eventually,
Yeah.
exactly. A pipe's going to crack, or some
Yep.
a crawfish is going to get sucked up and block something, or
Yeah. Oh yeah.
it's just a matter of time. So, in the
Yeah.
long run, it's not worth it. But yeah, I mean, so they raised a lot of, back to the story. They raised a lot of money and they donated all to the kids charity.
Hmm.
And they raffled the boat off, and I believe some kid in Northern California won it and came down and picked up the boat and drove the boat home.
Yeah,
So
nice.
Butch is an amazing human for everything he's kind of done. I don't know if you ever interacted or had him on one of your boats when you ran boats, but
I have
he
a
is
I have a
one of
story
the
about
nicest
Butch.
guys.
I worked on the Royal Polaris when Butch would come out on 18 days, the
Yeah.
Takas trip in January, and I was there when he caught his first 300 pounder yellowfin.
Okay.
So yeah, that was a long time ago, but yeah, and that was another thing. That was like before there was Huddleston's and before there was, and he was talking about fishing big crankbaits over a wire and in the lagoon, and and he was telling us about his skiff. I remember him telling us about his skiff. He had two trolling motors on it and all these 31 series batteries, like five or something, so that he could get out there faster than everybody else
Yeah,
and race
he
them to the spot. Yeah, he had some good stories, and I didn't even know what he was talking about. The lagoon or whatever at the time. And but yeah, Butch, oh yeah, yeah, he's a good guy. Very good
yeah,
guy.
he's a fishy human and a
Yeah.
like I said, he's done a lot for this for the swim baiting community and taking care of people and fixing baits and going
He's
above and beyond.
he's really
And
spread the
just
wealth,
yeah,
so to
he
speak.
feels very grateful. Like he's a great person to kind of like look at and be like, oh, okay, this is how you want to be when you get older. A good role model, good doing good things in the community, doing what you need to do, and
Hmm.
always giving back to what you're taking out of it.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Because I
So
mean,
you mentioned you had a Butch Brown type of boat for
yeah, so
Hodges.
we actually have one of Butch's boats at my brother's house
So
that
there's
he
there's more than
has.
two out there.
It's not the boat, it's a
Yeah,
boat.
yeah.
It's his boat that he would use when the lagoon was really low, and he had built
Oh,
it so it was light enough with everything quick disconnect, a small little trolling motor, and light enough to basically pick it up off the back of the trailer and roll it down into the water from the trailer.
yeah.
So we have that. Once he heard about Hodges and my brother started talking about building one, he's like, I have it for you. Just come get it out of my garage. My wife would be happy. So yeah, very fortunate that that sits in the garage and we'll be out at Hodges occasionally dealing
Yeah,
with that.
yeah. I've been
It's
kicking
an
around
in
that idea, just building one basically just for Hodges, and looking at 10-footers, like the little tracker 10-footer trackers and stuff. It's that whole lithium battery, man. That the lithium batteries changed the game. What?
yeah, so the first year we didn't have lithiums. And then halfway through last year, I'm like, we need lithiums for this thing. They're so
Yeah,
cheap. I mean, we
yeah,
didn't buy the nice ones. We bought some cheap ones from Amazon.
yeah,
I have the nice ones in the bass boat.
yeah,
Whatever. I can worry about the expensive ones in an expensive boat. That one just sits there and they get the job done. And yeah, one battery basically replaced two lead acid batteries for the day. And you can
yep,
put two lithiums in there and
yep.
go.
I know it. They're so light. It's just amazes me. Like for float tubes and kayaks and those guys. What a like I said, it's a game changer. Just
Yeah, the one thing about the boat, the fact I don't know how Hodges is or how it was last year.
yeah.
It would be very difficult to do it with one person, especially with
Uh,
the pictures I've seen now with how low it is. You basically have to
yeah,
go with a second person. At least I do. I'm a pretty little guy. I'm not gonna be able to carry that boat up, push it up by myself. So
yeah.
either you need to have a winch on a truck or something, and they'll probably yell at you because
Then you're
they tried.
then you're launching a boat.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So
yeah. I don't even know if you can bring a trailer in there. I think you have to launch it out of the back of your
they
boat, back of your
they
truck.
allowed ours is on a trailer, and
Oh,
they
okay.
always look at us funny, and it's like, no, and they show us, but they will not let you take your trailer wheels and go off the side of the ramp. If you
Oh,
back
okay.
off of it, they will come yell at you.
Okay.
So like even guys with trailers with their kayaks so that they can pull down there and they just don't want you backing off of the ramp.
Okay. I
At
gotcha.
least that's from my experience. They
Yeah.
they always look at you funny. I'm like, "No, we were here last week." And they're like, "Oh, okay. Have a nice day." So,
And then, yeah, I got a report from a guy that was out there for the opener, and he said it's as low as he's ever seen it, much lower than
yeah.
last year. Um, so it's really getting small.
I have a
But
couple buddies that fished it, and both of them said it was very, very depressing and, very uneventful. No,
right.
they didn't have a single bite, and it was
Oh, really?
tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, February's always tough out there. I never used to fish it until like the shad spawn.
That's yeah, I'm kinda right there with you. I got excited about it a couple times. I haven't been fishing Hodges for that long. Um, Basically the last couple years I could with the boat, and then
Hmm.
just since it's closed. Uh, I don't know why I didn't fish it sooner. I guess I was just lost, but, it can be very fun, but yeah, it's definitely not the same.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, we all knew that. At least it's the genetics haven't gone away, and eventually it's going to get put back to normal. In 9, 8 years or 9, 10 years or whatever it is. Um, and
And
it'll, I don't even know if I'll be around at that point.
I mean, at that
Be
point,
in Texas or something.
if it happens, it will be one of
Idaho.
those things that you'll have, that new lake effect go on, and
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
you will once again have a chance for a
Yeah.
few
Oh, yeah.
years to possibly catch a world record out of that lake. Like that's
Yeah.
the only lake that I know of that's ever produced a fish over 20 pounds that doesn't have trout in it.
That
Well, and
is
then
the
that in Georgia, supposedly the world
right.
record if you
Right.
accept that one. But
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Only we I was talking to somebody, I think it was on a podcast maybe, but yeah, we were looking it up, and it's a pretty popular notion. Oh, it's Jim Brown. Um, it's a pretty popular notion that that's the only lake that's produced a 20-pounder without trout. And have you okay, so I was talking to Jay about this, and I've heard it from twice from two different people. Have you ever heard, Larry Botroff?
mhm.
And
Yeah, he used to
how
take care of all the fish in the tournaments for us.
right, right. And he was electroshocking, and he was electroshocking Morena once, and he went into some little cove or whatever, and he shocked up 3 20-pounders in the
I
same
have
cove.
not heard that,
You haven't heard that? All right. It might
but
be an urban legend. I don't know. I can't get a hold of Larry. He won't answer. He's totally not gonna do a podcast or talk at
I
a club event or anything. He's just over it. He's done. I'm
he's
just
probably just disappointed to see it's probably just disgust him to see what
it,
has
it could
become of
be.
the lakes. Like, I mean, that man was every tournament I've ever fished until I don't know 2014, 15.
Yeah.
He was at every night tournament that we had.
Yeah.
He was a machine. I mean, he was awesome.
Yeah.
He took care of the fish, like, he always wanted to get every hook out of every fish, needle the fish, and
Yep.
it was, uh, it was something that went overlooked at the time, and then now I see the tournaments and you don't have that guy there, and you're like, "Oh, oh, like, that guy was
Right.
awesome."
We get
Like,
yeah, we have
like
volunteer.
I said, I didn't know the difference. I was young and I didn't know bass fishing. I was just enjoying our lakes being awesome and catching fish. So
Yeah.
we were having fun doing that, and he was there making sure especially the fish that needed to were always well taken care of and healthy before they went back in the lake. So
Right. I mean, we have great volunteers at the tournaments now, but he was literally the professional at doing it. He was the
yeah,
man. He
it's
knew how to
hard.
do it. That's what he
Volunteers
did.
are volunteers. They're not paid
Right.
true
Right.
biologists that know like they know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, no, our lakes or our tournaments that we have are great. I just unfortunately I don't have too I like fishing the night tournaments and those kind of seem like they're more or less gone. And I'll show up for a day tournament here or there, but for the most part, I don't enjoy fishing at Sand V most of the time, and Otay is hit or miss. So for what I enjoy doing, it's only El Cap, and the way that lines up for me, there might be one tournament a year that I can go and actually weigh in a limit on a swim bait and stand a chance, and I'll show up if that's the chance, but it's still pretty hard to get me to get out there on a
Are you
Saturday or
telling me you're gonna
Sunday.
fit? Are you telling me you're gonna fish on Saturday?
No, absolutely not. Not after this rain. I'm gonna be sitting in my house with my dog.
Okay.
He's been watching me this whole time. He's getting a little restless.
Yeah. Yeah. What kind of dog do you have?
Half border collie, half Australian shepherd.
Oh my God. Yeah, he wants to go. He wants to get
Yeah,
out of
and
the
he's
house.
but he doesn't like the cold or the rain. So
Yeah.
he likes electric blankets and soft fuzzy blankets. So
Oh,
it's
that's
a
cool.
battle today. The next few
Yeah.
days are gonna be fun with him.
Yeah. Yeah. So can you go over your tackle with me? Like say what kind of rods do you use? And if are you
Yeah.
sponsored by anybody or anything that you want
I
to hit
mean,
up?
I guess
Whatever.
technically I'm sponsored by Lowdown Custom Rods, you could
Okay.
say.
Yeah.
I I'm sponsored slash that's pretty much all I fish. Myself and Ben is also Ben has been my rod guy for a long time.
Yeah.
Um at this point he can get like we had the new rods that he just came out with, the Swimbait 24/7 rods. Um that rod I got like 3 years ago. He got us the prototypes and he just told me, he's like, here, these are for you. He's
Oh
like,
yeah,
these rods are for you.
that's the Butch Brown
Uh
model.
yeah, so
Yeah.
exactly. He just had he has a brand new rod model that came out with Butch Brown.
Hmm.
It's he has 8 foot and 8'6" double extra heavy and extra heavy. Um really basically throw anything from like a 250s on the extra heavy. I Yeah, 250s, the treble hook
Okay.
baits. It's kind of confusing. I just
Yeah.
fish big. So I've been fishing the all four of his new rods that just came out, the 8'6" and the 8 foot.
Hmm.
I'm fishing them with mostly Daiwa reels, or I also have Shimano, the Calcutta TEs,
Yeah.
300s and 400s.
Hmm.
20-pound fluoro. Your
No braid,
choice, honestly. No, never
no
fish
leaders,
braid.
no leaders, no
No
braid, just
leaders.
20-pound fluoro. Nice.
20-pound fluoro. I also fish 20-pound Iserline
Triple
for the
X,
bigger baits.
the triple
Um,
X.
yeah, Iserline triple X exactly.
Yeah.
Um, it just depends on if you want a bait to sink or float, like,
Yep.
or if
Yep.
you're trying to get a bait not just like crankbait fishing.
Yep.
It has a huge effect if you want your bait not digging into the rocks as much.
Yeah.
Um, you go with the co-poly, even though it's not going to be as abrasion resistant.
Yep.
But so there's times and place for both.
So yeah, I've done the same thing with like Carolina rigs. I went to like a copoly main line and a fluorocarbon leader, and I don't get hung up as much. It's easier to because the line's floating, it's coming down at a different angle to your weight, and
Hmm.
it doesn't dig in instead of just dragging the whole fluorocarbon leader or whatever on the bottom.
Yeah, so I've noticed like fishing super shallow, especially if you're fishing like ponds or like at Santee Lakes or anywhere
Hmm.
that's tight, you're fishing tight to the bank at any of the lakes. If I'm cranking baits down and I want them staying down,
Yeah.
obviously the fluoro, but you're gonna snag and you're end up gonna lose baits a lot more. Where if you have that float, it actually will help keep that nose just up enough to where you're not hanging up.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and then yeah, so that's it for line. Basically, I stick with I fish Seagar or Brazex for the most part. I want to try the new Daiwa Samurai. I've heard a lot of good things about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I did
Okay.
order a spool of that to try.
Okay. So I'm a small bait, swim bait kind of guy.
Okay.
What do you recommend for a tiny clash? What's your outfit? What do you throw for a tiny clash? Like rod numbers, reels, line. What do you
So
got?
there's two setups that I'll base rod wise. I fish a medium light, low down custom rod. I have customs, but the workshop rods are good. And basically, along those rides, sorry to jump back, but you have
That's
the
okay.
workshop is going to be a very parabolic rod.
Uh-huh.
His standard issue is kind of like moderate flex. And then the new Swimbait 24/7 is going to be a much faster action rod. So, like, if you're looking at his website and you're kind of really depending on how you, because different people, I like a fast action rod for the
Yeah.
same bait. My brother likes fishing a parabolic rod. I don't like the parabolic rods, and so every person has their preference.
Is it due to the way the bait swims, or is it because of the treble hooks versus a single hook?
Nothing about how the bait swims or about how the fish stay hooked. For me, it's all about casting and accuracy and the
Hmm.
way the rods are loading when they're casting.
Okay.
Um, I'm just so used to having a fast action rod that if I have something that's parabolic, I want to cast fast and it slingshots the bait and it causes backlash. And I just feel like I don't know exactly where I don't have as good of control with the softer action rod with the
Hmm.
casting.
Hmm.
I feel like I can put a bait exactly where I want it with a little bit faster action tip. And then with fish, I also feel like I have a lot better control over them.
Hmm.
I mean, we're not finessing any of these fish when I'm catching them.
Right.
So you know, I might rip hooks out of fish's face occasionally, but I don't think that happens very much. I don't lose a lot of fish while I'm fighting the fish. If I hook a
Hmm.
fish, the majority of the time they're coming to the boat. So,
Are you
um,
are you swapping out your original hooks on those
I
DMT
like
baits?
I like the stock hooks on the Tiny Clash. I like the Y hooks. If I
Yeah.
do switch
Yeah.
out the hooks, I'll go to an owner. I want to say it's the STX 45.
Oh, okay.
Kind of a weird shape. They have it in 2, 3. They have them in super small sizes, so you can put a small if you wanna go smaller and hook and still have a nice strong hook, it works really well. You can get a size 4s work pretty good on there. I know guys will even go smaller than that,
Hmm.
but our fish, I feel like slap baits a lot. I don't think they eat things correctly, so I think having those kind of wider gap hooks on those fish that slap, you hook a lot more fish.
Right. Instead of having
Um
a tipped in hook. Okay.
Mhm. And then, so yeah, with the tiny clash to fish them on a medium light, I'll either fish them with the 5-to-1 gear ratio. I fished the Daiwa Zillion 15. It's an older Daiwa Zillion Japanese reel. I want to say it's like a 1520
Yeah.
crazy crank. They
Uh-oh. Now we lost you. 105.27. I bet he got a phone call.
are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Did you get a phone
Sorry.
call?
Yes, I did. Of course, right
Yeah.
at the end. I was like, oh man, this is great. I haven't got one. My buddy's calling me about baits, of course.
I know.
Um, so yeah, back to it. I fished either a crazy cranker, a 5-to-1, or an 8-to-1. So a 200 size reel. You can fish a 150 size reel. You can fish honestly at the tiny clash. 15 and 17 pound test is probably best.
Oh, okay.
Um, I mean, you can fish 20. I've done it forever. I don't
Yeah.
think you're getting more bites with 17. The biggest advantage to that is you're going to get the bait down a little bit deeper if you want it to get deeper.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, either a 5-to-1 or an 8-to-1. So if I'm fishing it with the bill and just cranking it for the most part, I'm fishing it on a 5-to-1. Um,
Okay.
and with just the standard tail. or with the V-tail and a short lip,
Yeah.
and that's how I crank it. And then if I'm fishing it with like glide bait style, I mean 8 to 1's good. If you have a 9 to 1, that would be good. Honestly, the faster the better. Uh, with
Yep.
the bill out and the
Yep.
tail down.
Right.
And I do like to add the grenade weights or sticky weights. So, like with the Tiny Clash, pretty much 1.2 grams of weight is going to keep it floating, but very suspended.
Is that for the high
Um,
float or low float?
no, the low
Or
float.
okay.
The high float to me excels as a wake bait, but
Yeah.
it takes a little bit of weird things. You need to, you have to get the deep lip and you flip it around, and then you can use the V tail or a joker tail in there, and it
Yeah.
keeps that bait up on the surface. And it's a very, it looks exactly like a silver side swimming across, like it's silver side. The tail flickers like a silver side kicks across the water. So like
Yeah.
I've had a lot of luck fishing it on like very slow, like a 5 to 1, just creeping it across the top of the water on super calm nights.
Yeah.
Um, but that's really the only way I've fished the high float for the most part. The low float is pretty much what I fish in
Okay.
both of them.
That's that's what I thought. I thought I might have been missing something because I was on some forum the other day, whatever, and they were giving away TKs for something, and all the guys up in Northern California, all the Delta guys were like, "Oh, the high float's where it's at, the high float TK, blah blah blah," and I'm like, "What? Wait a minute, what am I missing out on here?" Because everything that I have is low floats. I don't even
So
own a high
it
float TK.
so my Caesar, who owns Toxic Baits, loves the
Mm-hmm.
high float for
Uh-huh.
up in from the Delta. That's where he was based. He now lives in Long Beach, but he loved the high float up there, and I think because it wasn't cranking down as much, they
Yeah.
were able to fish it in that kind of, call it 6 to 12 inches underneath the surface over the top of that grass as the tides
Yeah.
were falling,
Yeah.
and they were getting like fast cranking it through there and catching fish.
Okay.
Um, but I think that's very situational. I don't
Right.
see, I mean, maybe at O-tide during certain times of the year, that might be really good. But for our lakes, for the most part, I haven't seen that. I've never caught fish that way. So I
Right.
can't never say never, because honestly, people, those things, people catch fish doing the craziest things all the time. Like
Right.
I, there's
Yeah.
so the nicest thing about those baits is the infinite amount of adjustability. I mean, you can take one bait, you can fish from honestly 2 feet down, like 0 to 2 feet if you take the bill out. And if you weight it, you can fish it down in 15 or 18 feet of water and just crawl it along the bottom. So, like, you have the ability to do
That.
anything with a bait. And that's why in Japan it's such a popular bait, because you have so many guys that are shore fishing, and it's one
Yeah.
bait. You can fish it on, if you have a rod that you're fishing an A rig with, it will fit. Like, it doesn't take a specific rod.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
light enough to throw on any kind of traditional medium heavy or heavy casting
Right.
rod,
Right.
and they can use that. They can fish a cover scat, they can fish bull flat or whatever they're doing all on one casting rod, and then they can have their finesse spinning rod set up. So they walk around with two setups on the bank, and that's what they do, and they walk and they fish.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it even makes even more sense for when you put it that way, as far as the
Yeah.
versatility of the DRT baits. At least the clashes. The
Yeah, I mean, the Joker is just as pretty much a solid wake bait.
yeah.
It's a strict wake bait. You can take the bill out and kind of fish it like, I don't know if you ever the old black dog shell cracker, kind of like a slap bait, two
Mm-hmm.
piece, and just kind of, it kind of goes crazy. I know a
Oh,
lot of
we have
guys have
so
luck with
many.
that.
They bought so many. There's such a backstock at East County of shell crackers. It's a freaking. I don't know how many. There must be 100. I
Of the
bet they have
wood
100.
ones?
No, not the wood ones.
Okay, the
No, they're the plastic
G2s.
ones. Yeah.
Yeah, the G2s are a good bait. But no, the old before the G2, he made them out of wood, and there was a build version which guys would fish as a, like a super slow wake bait or that, and then there was a floating billless version. And honestly, you'd fish it like a spook or a punker. You'd sit there and walk it, and it would just slap and make all sorts of noise. All right, dude, calm down. I don't know if you can hear my dog hollering in the background.
My dogs do it too. I got bloodhounds, and
Y-
when somebody comes home, boy, they lose it.
I'm
They
waiting
get
for him.
really
He's
loud.
looking like he's about ready to jump on the table and come see what's going on over here. So you might get
Yeah.
his face interrupting in a second. But
Okay.
so yeah, like with the tiny clash and the cane, or so set up for the tiny clash, 150 or 200 size reel. If you're
Yeah.
cranking, I mean, you can fish it on any gear if you're comfortable fishing fast with like an 8 to 1, and that's what you normally crank with. Crank with
Yeah.
that. Just
Yeah.
that bait excels when it gets to the bottom and you
Yeah.
slow down.
Yeah.
Like you will catch times where you're speed cranking it. Um, but for the most of the time, you get bit while that bait's having bottom contact. You're slowly ticking the rocks. You come over a rock and the fish eats it.
Sure.
Um,
Yeah.
so it's to me like the guys in Japan, the guides, he says you miss too many fish with the 5 to 1 because you miss when they bite it. You can't pick up fast enough. Like I
Mm.
said, it kind of goes back to personal preference and what guys fish themselves. Uh, I can do it with both, but I feel like I get a lot more bites when I go to a 5 to 1. So whether that's a mental thing or actually what's happening, it's what I feel is the best way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, And same
I'm
thing
glad.
goes with the 9 inch one. I mean,
Yeah.
you can fish it the exact same way and do the same stuff.
Yeah. I'm glad you touched on weighting the tiny clash, because that was actually one of my questions, and I didn't know if we were going to be able to even get to it, is or weighting any of the glide baits or diving type baits with some bills in them, because that's something that's just totally out of my realm. Like, that's not something I do, but I know it's been
So,
done for a long time through
so like you can
certain
do the
people.
sticky weights. I like the grenade weights. They're like little tungsten shaped grenades that look almost like a drop shot weight that clip
Uh-huh.
onto the hook hanger.
Yeah.
Um, because they have what weight they are labeled on them. It's
Yeah.
very small, but if you keep them, it's pretty easy to tell like a 1.2 from a 3.5, and so they have every size that you could ever need.
Yeah.
And it just makes it easy. And, they have all the way up to like 14-gram ones. So, like,
Hmm.
if you want to make a bait sink, you can make a bait sink very quickly. And that, yeah, like the little things like that, putting baits in different places that the fish have never seen is what make them react. Because at this point, they've seen everything. They know what's going on. We all see them
Right.
follow every bait back to the boat, whether it's a 2 inch shad bait or a 10-inch bait. The fish react the same way to it. It's not like they're doing something different. They look at it and they follow. It seems like other places in the country, they don't follow, they bite. But
Yeah.
here, it seems, I don't know, for the majority of the time, it's not that. It happens occasionally, but it's
I,
very few and far between when
yeah.
you're getting,
God, I'm so in agreement with you on that.
like, for me, the forward facing sonar is great, but overall, like, I can probably count on my hand how many fish it's actually I've watched eat a swim bait on the forward facing sonar.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's helped me
Right.
locate plenty of fish that I know that they're sitting on points or where they're at, and then I know how to attack them from there.
Uh-huh.
That comes in handy all the time. But like actually seeing a fish casting to it, um, it's it's not that way. At least it doesn't. I don't. There's not a magic
I,
bait that I've found for it yet,
I'm
and
glad. I'm glad you
I
said
have a
that.
lot of them in the boat. I mean, I have a lot of baits to try. And like yesterday, I was getting done with the lake. I didn't and I probably put 15 different baits away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it just keeps going. And it's like, okay, well, this fish should eat. Let me try this. And it's like, no, then no, and then no. And then all of a sudden you have like 40 fish following one bait, and you're like, okay, they're gonna bite. And then they don't. And you try something size down and they don't look at it. And then so yeah, there's no magic key or bite or bait. It's a matter of finding the right fish at the right moment is all what from what I'm seeing. It's a matter of going to the same spot, finding your fish and going to them until they show you they're gonna bite, and they just bite. Like, it's really weird. It happens for 10-minute windows some days, it happens for hour, it's hit or miss.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen you take off from the dock and just like, I mean, with on your trolling motor and like peel off and be like, oh, well, there's one. And you just like pick up and you start fishing for it. Like
Yeah,
there's one like 50 feet away, 2 feet down. It's a big one. And then you start fishing for them. And so
yeah,
I know you do target them a little bit.
I'm gonna let my dog out. Give me 1 second.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Go outside. What? I don't know what he's trying to fight, but my neighbor's dogs are a pain in the butt. They always are causing problems, and he's gonna go fight them. So
Okay.
there's a fence. They can't really get to each
Yeah.
other. Oh, you little. Nope. He just realized it was raining and had to come back in. Sorry.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Dude, sorry. Girl, enough. So yeah, like to me, the biggest yeah. I haven't noticed all that much opportunity to where you cast and you catch fish. It happens occasionally, but I mean,
It's
I can almost say I've done it more with a random, whatever they're called, hover strolling rigs that I
yeah.
bring just to see. Like, half the time, I'm still learning forward facing sonar. I don't know what every one of these fish is, and
Right.
like
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
for instance, the other day I was out there and I had an axe blade and casted, and I caught a trout on it, and I'm like, these are trout, okay. And you're
Yeah.
like, well, and then the guy next to me catches a bass, and you're like, well, so they're not, they're everything. They're mixed around. It's hard to
Yeah.
tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I mean, at Clear Lake, it's impossible to know what you're looking at. From when
I
I
can
was
only
there,
imagine. Yeah.
it's just so much life and crappie and carp and in the
Catfish.
bays. It's madness. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, I have caught a couple catfish that I've seen and scoped them and caught them with a swim bait, thinking they were big bass. That was a disappointment.
I got a great big one out of one of those eucalyptus at San Vicente on a 7-inch Cinco.
Yeah.
I saw him down there and I didn't think much of it, and the darn thing bit it, and I was like, ugh. Here we go. But yeah. Yeah, I know. Um, all right. Well, man, this was awesome. We got a lot of time here. This was people keep asking longer episodes, longer episodes. They just like to turn them on and let them run. And this was great. An hour and 20 minutes or whatever. It's been good. Thank you for coming on.
Of
I'll
course, yeah.
let you go.
Anytime, let me know.
Yeah, I'd love to have you back on and discuss some more weighted swim bait techniques and go from there. But yeah,
But yeah,
appreciate it.
that I would definitely recommend those grenade weights, and just because of the ease of use, they
So
might be a little.
do you just put them on right behind the treble?
Yeah, here, let me go. Give me 1 second. I'll
All
grab
right.
a bait with one.
Oh yeah. Here we go.
Well, that one already has it on there. So you can see on this.
So you just
Um,
put it in front of the treble.
Yeah, in front and back, wherever it is, and it just
Okay.
hangs with the treble. So like it doesn't get in the way.
Oh, so it's
Occasionally you'll
pretty.
have one.
It is really small.
Yeah, so like that's the 1.2 gram one. This
Hmm.
is a 3.5. Like I
Yeah.
said, they make them out of, they have lead ones, but these are all the tungsten ones.
Yeah.
So they're tiny, like they're not, for crankbaits or whatever.
Yeah.
It's an awesome way, like they make tiny even smaller than 1.2 gram, and it just makes it easy to quick adjust, and you
Ins-
get more depth or whatever you need out of a bait.
Instead of using an adhesive stick-on weight, that's kind of
Yeah, and that's always
semi-permanent.
there. And sometimes, like I'll be going down the bank and I'm fishing, and all of a sudden I'm in 4 feet of water, and I don't want that weight on there because
Hmm.
it's digging in the bottom, or I'm getting stuff on my bills. So just being able to pop it off and put it on the deck and then get back to the deeper water and pop it on.
Yeah.
Or I mean, even playing with where the weight is and the tails, give it
Yeah.
different actions. So like you can if you want to fish it like a slow glide, you can take the V tail and put the weight on the back hook hanger,
Hmm.
and it will fish similar to like a smaller, like a 250, pretty decently like wide glide, but just a very lazy, steady glide, just
Yeah.
back and forth. It's not choppy at all. It's not like the normal glide. So like doing little tweaks like that will get you completely different end results of what the bait's gonna do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that goes for all glides. I mean, everything. It's not bad to try different things.
Sure.
Yeah.
Do you spend much time with the chopping baits here in San Diego?
I mean, I don't know. I guess not, because I don't know what they would consider a chopping bait technically. That's
Well,
kind of a newer terminology that
okay. So what I'm saying is like KGB Chad Chads
I have
or
not ever fished one of his baits personally. I've never actually. Yeah, no, I don't know anybody that has any of them.
hmm.
I know guys catch fish on them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I'm sure they're a great bait. I just don't know. I mean, we don't have that gizzard shad and
Right.
that
Right.
weirdness. So like,
Right.
as I guess a canine's probably the choppier style, as choppier
It could
as.
be.
I mean, I fish it very fast when I'm fishing it without a bill. Like, people watch me fish and they kind of freak out, and it's like, they're like, "What?"
So
I'm like,
you
"Yeah, no, like
s-
fast."
so you do that same thing with the K9 that you do with like a TK? Because my
Mhm,
TK fishing, most of the fish that I've caught on a TK has been with the fast, very fast retrieve, and and working it just that's why I use a like an 8-to-1 reel, like you said,
mhm.
and a fast rod with a TK, so that it
It
squirts along the surface. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, so I personally don't like, if I have the choice, I wouldn't fish a tiny clash and glide mode. I
Yeah.
don't like the way it fishes. I've caught just as many fish on a canine as I have a tiny clash.
Hmm.
And like, to me, it's not a matter of size. Like, I'll fish them both side by side. I feel
Yeah.
like a lot of times if you're fishing them, especially if the fish are eating shad, you have a lot of that bigger bass eating the bass are eating bass. Like, the big
Right.
fish are sitting under that little bass and they're eating that. So like the bigger bait sometimes draws and it moves that shad, and the fish kind of react to it a little bit better. I've
Uh-huh.
seen. And then
Yeah.
some days they don't want the bigger bait and you catch them all in a tiny clash. And then I don't I don't know. I don't know why, but yeah, to me, I prefer, if I had the choice, I'd fish. So like cranking down, I think the tiny clash kind of excels in that. And
Hmm.
then the canine excels in fishing it without the bill.
Wow. Okay. See, I just learned something. I'm
And
glad we
yeah.
went on this. I'm glad
And then
we
like on
kept
the
talking,
canine, you want
because
to put.
I've never fished a K9 like really fast along the surface or without the bill even. Well, I fished it without the bill, but
So yeah, bill out, tail down, it would be considered mode
right.
B. And
Yeah.
then weight, like 3.5 grams of weight is kind of like the 1.2 grams for the tiny clash.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of that like the right number that it's not enough to make it sink. It always floats, but it's going to be pretty slow floating depending on the water temperature.
Right.
Maybe once it gets above 70 degrees, you might have that bait start sinking. But
Hmm.
I feel like with 3.5, it always floats unless you get a crack from hitting too many rocks or something.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. All right, cool. Nice. All right, man. I'm gonna let you go.
Have a great day.
Thank you so much for coming on here. We'll talk to you
Okay.
later.
Bye.
See ya.